Hello and welcome to our latest Hoopcast. Pat Dooley and Kevin Brockway, the Gainesville Sun. Don't ask us where our microphones are, but we're going to use this one instead. And Kevin, obviously Florida comes off a big win over Vanderbilt. For some reason, I think they could play Vandy 50 times and beat them 49 because Vandy doesn't match up with them.
Yeah, that's a very physical match, a good physical matchup for me. I didn't know if I had to hold the mic there for a second. I felt like a game show host there. A game show host there for a second. Vandy presents a pretty good physical matchup for him, certainly, as far as a team they can push around a little bit, and certainly going into LSU tomorrow night, that's not going to be the case. They're a very physical, strong, athletic team, so it's going to present a different challenge certainly tomorrow night.
Well, yeah, it will, and obviously the LSU game's a big one for Florida. They're kind of in their Final Four right here of their own. The gauntlet's there for them, these 4 games against teams that are going to help them. I was talking on the radio show a little bit earlier about this. It's almost like beating Tennessee, it'll do more for them RPI-wise than beating LSU, which has got 1 loss in the conference and leads the SEC because LSU plays such a pitiful non-conference schedule. Their RPI's low. Yeah, and
they had the one non-conference loss against Xavier, which was supposedly one of their better teams on their schedule. They didn't beat them, but I still think a statement game and a game on national TV. You got 3 or Final Four on national TV, and I think again that eye test is kind of important. Playing those games where a lot of people are going to see you. Whether or not you win or lose, also how you play too. I mean, Florida's been in almost every game that they've played this season, other than the Tennessee game, the one nationally televised game, but they were in the Kentucky game, which was on national TV. Certainly the Georgia game, which was on national TV, was a little bit of an embarrassment. But this is another chance tonight to pick up a statement game and play well. And, maybe steal a win on the road against a top 25 team. That would certainly help their NCAA tournament hopes.
Yeah, you'd have to think they do. I mean, people keep asking what they need to do. 3-1, they're in. 2-2, they're on the bubble, and a lot may happen depending on what happens in the tournament. But it starts, obviously, Tuesday night with a team. LSU came into the O'Connell Center and handed Florida, to me, what was the signature defeat for the Gators. LSU wasn't playing well. They had an interim coach, something about interim coaches, but they just destroyed Florida, and I think we were all stunned by that. Well, that was kind of the catapult, I think. They played better the rest of the year, and then they bring in a new coach, and they're playing really good basketball right now with only 1 loss in the conference.
Well, Marcus Thornton is the talent. He's second in the league in scoring. And don't forget, last year they didn't have Tasman Mitchell, who was out with a broken leg. Right. They've got him this year. They did lose Anthony Randolph from last year's team, but Mitchell has pretty much more than made up for that in terms of, even being a more experienced guy and a tougher guy down low, for Florida to handle. So, they're getting very good balance. Bo Spencer, the point guard, is another guy, very unheralded guy. Has kind of settled things down because they were a team last year and in years past they're prone to turn the ball over a little bit, and he and Garrett Temple kind of give them a little bit of a steadiness back there that maybe they haven't had in the past.
Yeah, and I've been to as you have, Kevin, to the Pete Maravich Assembly Center, and it can get pretty loud in there. It's not the greatest arena in the world, but it certainly is. They're right up there on top of you, so it's going to be interesting. That's one thing though about this team, Kevin. They've gone on the road, they've played well. But obviously the loss to South Carolina, the loss to Kentucky were tough losses. Georgia obviously didn't show up for the first half, but then they played well in the second half and just couldn't get it done. So it's not like this has been an awful road team.
Yeah, the results don't show it. And then you throw the loss to LSU in there. They're still a 2-5 team on the road. Certainly in neutral courts, away from the O'Connell Center, they've been 3-1. So the travel, I think maybe some of the sophomores are learning how to deal with that a little bit better. Yeah. But I think it's a matter of maybe getting a road win either here or at Mississippi State next week would really help them in terms of the RPI and the committee's perception of them as an NCAA tournament team and maybe a better seed as well.
Well, people have to realize too that a lot of it has to do with your last 10 or 12 games, depending on what they want to look at. Like you said, road wins, beating teams in the top 50 and top 100, which LSU certainly is. So a win Tuesday night against LSU would really maybe as last year it was the thing that knocked them out of contention for an NCAA bid. It could be the thing that catapults them in.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough order just because LSU is so good on the glass. They're the best rebounding team in the league, and it's no secret rebounding has been an issue with Florida. They've been out-rebounded their last 5 games, but they showed some strides against Vanderbilt. Again, a team that they're, physically a little better than that, though. Playing a little tougher, blocking shots, limiting the points in the paint. So, certainly from a physical standpoint, they'll be overmatched, but maybe we're seeing a little bit more, maybe a sense sense of urgency, they can overcome some of those things and at least keep it manageable and not get out-rebounded by 10 or 20. If they can keep it to 3 or 4 or 5, they'll be in much better shape.
Which they've done for the most part. I mean, they get out-rebounded. It's not overwhelming, and I think that's helped them. And, I think a guy like Kenny Cage, he's got as we know, he plays in spurts, and when he plays in those spurts, he's pretty good. And then the rest of the time, he's kind of a non-factor. But we'll see. Nick Kalatis didn't have a lot of rebounds the other day against Vanderbilt, but he was sick, so maybe this will be an opportunity for him to get some rebounds as well.
And the thing about the freshman KG and Irving Walker, last year you saw that team kind of wear down a little bit because they were asking the freshmen to play so many minutes, and you had so many freshman starters. These guys are coming off the bench a little bit, so they've been allowed to ease into it a little bit, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that. A guy like an Irving Walker, making big shots and big plays down the stretch like he did against Vanderbilt. A guy like a Kenny Cagey, who's been brought along slowly and can kind of maybe come. So maybe, for them, we'll see that progression and it'll be more noticeable because they won't be as worn down as last year's freshmen were.
Well, we'll see what happens against LSU, and hopefully we've given you enough information on LSU here, and we'll move on to the game next week obviously at home against Tennessee. So we'll come back next time, tell you what happened in LSU, we'll try to keep that part short and give you a lot of information on Tennessee just to make sure everybody's happy. Till then, Pat Dooley, Kevin Brockway, the Gainesville Sun, saying so long from the Sunshine State.